We're talking about it. Mom's making it. We're talking about substance abuse recovery. We're talking about senior living, healthcare. We have a great show. I'm Angie Graham, and we're talking about it. Podcaster to podcaster, we're talking about it today. I am Angie Graham, and talking with me today is Steph Shanks.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Well, thank you so much for making the journey over so far from Baraboo.
From Baraboo, yeah.
I love Baraboo. Steph Shanks is a professional photographer and podcaster from Baraboo, Wisconsin, and I just learned a new author. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have raised a family by making your way through the production business world. So, who is Steph Shanks?
Oh, that's a loaded question just to start out.
Put you right into the hot seat right away.
Yeah, I think the reason I am who I am is because of my kids. So I would say that Steph Shanks is a mom.
Mom?
For sure, yeah.
Well, tell us about your kids.
Yeah. So my journey started at 16. I found out I was pregnant and had twins all in about the same week. And the twins were actually premature. So the whole process of becoming a mom was very, I want to say, violent. Okay. You know, I lost my identity right away. Didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to be a mom to premature babies. And those babies are 26 now. And I'm just beginning to process, you know, those years.
Okay. And are those your only children?
No, I have a 17-year-old son as well. Okay. And he's at home. I homeschool him.
Okay.
And he was everything that the twins weren't as far as birth. And he was healthy, born at the right time, at the right place. I was ready. And so, yeah, I'm mom of 3 boys.
I know why my team sought you out and thought you'd be a good fit for you to come on the show is because I was also a teenage mom. I think we have a lot of parallels that we share. So this will be a good discussion.
Yeah.
I was a mom at 17, and by the time I was 22, I had 3 boys and went right from being a kid to being a parent.
Yeah.
So I can relate to those things.
Yeah, I wish we would have known each other.
Right?
You know, back then.
You know, and for me, it always felt like for many years like a scarlet letter. Like you were a teenage mom and you're ruining, you know, when I was in high school and pregnant, you know, I was told by teachers that I was going to ruin my entire life.
Yeah.
Having a baby is going to ruin my whole life. I should think about adoption or think about abortion possibly, or you know, those other options. And what felt right to me was having my baby and keeping my baby. That felt like the right journey for me.
Yeah.
And I had sounds like a little more time to process that. How long, you said how long did you have that you knew you were pregnant before you had the babies?
About a week.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, now they call it disassociation. There's words for it. But I think the idea that I was pregnant was just far too overwhelming to even think about. So I just disconnected from that part of my body entirely and just, you know, kept waking up and hoping it was a dream. And, you know, even after I had them, I just kept thinking, like, this can't be my life. And learning through that whole process of learning how to become a mom, I have a brother, but I was never even around babies. I babysat a little bit, but I didn't know how to change a diaper. I had no interest in being a mom or...
So how were your parents during that?
My parents were very supportive of me keeping the babies and helping raise them.
Okay.
It was really hard for quite a few years because I was trying to become a parent, and they were also trying to be parents. So it wasn't the best situation. However, I'm very grateful for those years that I didn't have to worry about diapers and insurance, and they really helped me out financially.
Sure. And I could totally relate to that feeling. I think when I brought my baby home, I was up right away in competition with my mom. She definitely took charge, as moms do. Mm-hmm. Being a mom, I totally get it. She definitely took charge, and I felt that conflict eventually where, wait a minute, I'm the parent, and then once I turned 18, I moved out pretty quickly after I turned 18 just to get some separation.
Yeah.
And learn how to be a parent independently.
Yeah. And I was 21, so I had a few extra years, but I also had special needs kids, so just took a little bit longer.
That support.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you made it through.
I did. We made it through. I would say it's not an I, it's a we. As you know, having twins so young, I don't really remember my teenage years except for being a mom. There was, with all the struggles that I went through, finding that love, that fierce motherly love so young, I think really pulled me, almost like a rope pulling me through all the hard times. There was just this fierce love to want to be the best mom I could be and protect my kids at all costs. And of course I made mistakes and things that I wouldn't do now if I had young kids, but it definitely defines who I am.
I think that's every parent's journey, though. You're not perfect in parenthood. When I go back and I think about even my parents, I was the youngest of 7 kids.
Okay.
So you would think by the time I was born, they should have lots of experience and lots of knowledge, and they still make mistakes. They still made mistakes, and I think that parenthood is it's a challenge being a parent, no matter what age. There are things that my personal journey being a young mom, there's things I think about that I was able to do as a young mom that I wouldn't have been able to do at 35 or 40 if I had started having kids then.
Yeah.
The living without sleep for 5 years, because I had them, stair steps right in. They were each a couple years apart from each other, so it was like 5 years of baby having kids, and I feel like I didn't sleep for 5 years, but I was able to do that being young. You're more resilient. So as difficult as it was, I also learned to find and look for the plus sides of those things too, that journey and how it's molded me.
Yeah, I think back to, with my son Drew, he has cerebral palsy, and he doesn't have a lot of use of his muscles. So I would take him through the playland at McDonald's. I could never do that now. I couldn't even do it with myself, much less a toddler now. So I am very grateful that, yes, I was young, limber, lean, all the energetic, that I could do all those things with him. And, my ex-husband, he would, because I got married at 21 to not their dad, but somebody that eventually adopted them. And he would take them skateboarding. So he would put the twins in between his legs on a skateboard and skate around with them at skate parks. And it's like, what an amazing experience for somebody that can't walk to be on a skateboard. And, some of the things we were able to do because we were so young.
Right. So then you have a son who is, you said, just 17, and you said that was very different from going from being a young teenage mom. How many years difference?
10. Yeah.
And then you had a baby 10 years later.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I was really scared that I wasn't going to be able to love him like I love my twins. That was such a weird experience for me because the twins and I had been through so much together. And I knew the twins needed me in a way that a child that wasn't special needs doesn't. So there was unknowns in that, but when I had this 8-pound, 11-ounce baby in my arms, it was a feeling that, okay, maybe things just happen to people, and maybe it wasn't me. I wasn't the reason why my babies were born premature. You know, obviously my body can handle this, and the best laid plans, I don't know the quote, but that pregnancy has a lot of unknowns, and it can go great or it cannot, and we're not in control of that. So it was healing.
Every pregnancy is different. Every baby is different.
Yeah. So this kid, he has taught me how to allow him to be independent in a way. Like, he came out basically, this is my life, this is who I am, you know, and at 17, he is making his own decisions in his life. And I've had to learn how to almost unparent the parenting that I learned with the twins, because they needed so much. They needed me to pick them up and drop them off and, you know, everything. So it's been a good learning experience. And, he's a great kid too. They're all fantastic children. So,
well, you've done something right.
Yeah, I feel like I have, and the people that are in, you know, the people that have helped me along the way have done something right too. So
Sure, absolutely. I feel that way with my boys too. My family helped a lot between my sisters, all the aunts and uncles, and being from a large family. The kids went to everybody's house at some point while they were growing up and spent the night and were influenced by many different people, and have grown into successful adults. And that's really what you measure your success as a parent from, is the result of your children.
Yeah.
Do you have any grandkids?
No.
Not yet.
No, I can't even imagine. So, do you?
I have 7.
You have 7 grandkids?
Yeah. And it is the greatest blessing, joy. It's so much better than having your own kids.
Yeah.
I've told my boys this, so I'm not afraid if they hear it. Because grandkids, they think you are the greatest thing on earth, and they come and they visit, and you can just, but you don't have to discipline them really like your children.
Yeah.
And you just spoil them, and then you send them home. So it is by far I really enjoy this stage in life in being in that role. And I had 3 sons, so do you. And so having granddaughters, so I have 4 granddaughters and 3 grandsons. So having girls is just a lot of fun because I didn't raise girls.
Yeah.
But I also see the challenge with having girls, and my one son, all 3 of his are girls, and he's a great girl dad, and but boy, he's going to have his hands full. Pretty girls, so
Yeah.
but that's been great. So you have a podcast.
I do.
Tell us about your podcast.
Podcast just started in August, and I understand the power of storytelling and the ability to be heard, to speak and be heard. For so long, with the twins being born premature and then going into school, and it always just felt like everybody was talking at me. And through that whole experience, I knew I was growing a voice. I knew I was growing strength. but I didn't know where it was going to lead.
Okay.
And I had a friend who had a podcast, and she invited me to be on. And it was such a life-changing experience. I was so worried, first off, like, how am I going to sound? How am I going to look? But it was so freeing to just tell my story that I realized I wanted to have a platform to do the same. My podcast, and it's called Unwritten.
Okay.
And I love that name. There's a Natasha Bedingfield song called Unwritten, and our paths are unwritten.
Right.
And that's really, we just have to celebrate every day.
Why did you want to do a podcast?
Just to give people that platform, especially women, to talk about some of the hard things they've been through. And so I did that. I did, I think, 27, 30 episodes. I got in a little over my head. And then I stopped it. And then I just started to interview actual people in my home. So I take women in the area, and we talk about hard things. And I had my son on, and that's how I got here, because Nikki saw Drew on his podcast with me, and it just gives people a platform to speak. And it's really great walking into a coffee shop and knowing that somebody might have heard my podcast, or they come up to me, I've heard your podcast. I can't believe this person went through this, and, you know, kind of what we're doing now. It's just sharing.
Right. And talking about things that, you know, when I think about it, my son now is 35, that I thought I'd never be able to talk about, you know.
Yeah.
When he was born. And so I commend you for that. It's brave.
Yeah.
And I listened to the podcast with Drew, and it was very raw, very real, very raw. Mm-hmm. And but I could definitely relate to it with my own son, and it's brave for sure.
Yeah.
Is this healing for you? We're Talking About It is brought to you by Our House Senior Living. Visit us at ourhouseseniorliving.com.
Yes, it's healing for me. And it's freeing. I would say it's more of a freedom. Mm-hmm. You know, we talked a little bit about that scarlet letter. When you live so long feeling that the world is against you and judging you, when you can take that feeling and turn it into something positive and realize that our strength and our beauty, it all starts from within. And sometimes the harder our lives are, the more beauty and bravery, courage comes out. You know, with my photography, it kind of goes hand in hand, because I can have a 17-year-old bombshell beauty in the studio, and she sees herself and she's, oh, I don't like the photos. I can have a 70-year-old woman who has been through cancer, divorce, death, and she sees her pictures and she sees beauty. It'll make me cry a little bit, because she sees her soul, and she sees how far she's come.
Yeah, she sees her survival,
Yeah,
perhaps.
and that's the connection that I make in my podcast and in my studio too.
So tell us about your photography. What do you photograph?
So I love to photograph women, specifically over 40, and just help them celebrate themselves.
I'm a candidate.
Yeah, come on in. Yeah, I actually, really exciting that before I came here, I was checking out a new space for a new studio.
Good for you.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I don't know if you meditate, but I spend a lot of time meditating, being mindful, and trying to manifest new things in my life. So I've had this feeling of like utter excitement I don't know for you, the last time I was completely surprised about something and was like, I got a Cabbage Patch doll when I was 8. And I remember the feeling Christmas morning opening up this Cabbage Patch. I can't believe I got this Cabbage Patch doll. And that feeling. And so when this space came about, it was that same feeling. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I can't even talk about it. I'm so excited.
So you're going to get the space?
Yeah, I'm sharing it with one of my friends. And she's a singer-songwriter who you should have on the podcast too.
Well, I'm so glad we connected.
Yeah. And yeah, we're going to share this beautiful space. And yeah. And my business is called Steph Shanks Photography, so it's really easy to find.
Okay. I found it on Facebook, so I know it's there.
It's there, yeah. So yeah, exciting things are happening. And exciting things do happen when you can see the beauty in all the struggle.
Right. And so how much of this has started since you've started to podcast and really put yourself out there? It sounds like a lot of things have moved and changed and happened for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can backtrack a couple years ago. I was in a marriage that on the surface looked amazing. We had a beautiful home, cars in the driveway, 3 businesses between us, vacations all over. And I was just so unhappy because I had created this life that I thought I wanted, but it was empty. And I was empty. I was depleted. I had no energy anymore. And I knew I had to make a change. So, of course, as we do, I ran. So I went to Santa Barbara for a month thinking, A, time away from the relationship might heal it. Mm-hmm. And B, maybe I could live out there and here and do my photography out in Santa Barbara in the cold months here. We do things and we think things maybe out of desperation. Just how can I not hurt anybody? So maybe I'll just go away. Maybe that'll solve everything.
Change your surroundings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I felt like there was something inherently wrong with me that I just couldn't be happy. Mm-hmm. And when I got out there, I started unwinding this box that I'd put myself into. And I went to Zumba, and I meditated under this big tree and went to yoga. I started doing all these things. And I realized that there wasn't anything wrong with me. I just created the wrong life for me. So it was, during that time, I realized I needed to not be married anymore. And came back home and started that division process, found my own place, lost friendships. My dog died. Lost my first studio that I loved because I couldn't afford it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I became myself. So the podcast, the book, now the new studio, me sitting here with you, it's all just me finally being me.
You've reinvented yourself to the authentic you.
Yeah, I don't know if it's reinvention. I call it unbecoming.
Okay.
I'm unbecoming who I thought I should be.
Okay.
And just being me. Yeah.
Yeah, I've also endured 2 divorces. And yeah, I think as I have grown in my own growth and evolved, or however you want to say, mm-hmm. Life is a journey, right? As I've gone through the journey, I felt as if I outgrew relationships, perhaps, or there was a point that I became very driven and in pursuing a career, and definitely probably fit into that workaholic persona. But being in that role, that was a safe place for me to be. and it was a newfound comfort. But also being in that role isolated me from family, friends, other things, because in some ways I was trying to give out that persona of everything's great, life is grand, right?
Yeah.
And I felt very much as if I'm so successful here, why can't I be successful in my personal life?
Yeah.
And that was really in shambles. So I isolated myself from people because I didn't want anybody to see what was really happening with that, because the two, by what we think in our head, society might perceive us at again, like the scarlet letter, like, oh, I don't want to be successful here, but now fail at a personal relationship. How could I be such a desperate failure in a personal relationship and then still be successful? But honestly, people get divorced all the time. Why do we internalize that so much as humans? I'm not sure,
I don't know.
particularly us as women, because like women, we're like goats. We like ruminate and chew all this stuff up over and over again. And so I think that I finally had to realize that it wasn't going to work, and it wasn't, and I was going to have to, and a divorce, like, is a very outward thing. Like, people know.
Yeah.
Your name changes, things happen, you go through a divorce, and it's a very much a painful public failure. At least that was.
Yeah, I had those feelings too.
Yeah, and you go through that, and you think, I've gotten better at not worrying so much about what people think. I don't know. I turned 50, and I don't give a shit anymore.
Good for you. Yeah.
It's true. Like, I found this freedom when I turned 50 of, I'm tired and I'm getting older and life is too short. And I have seen some of my classmates pass away, and I all of a sudden feel like tick-tock, time's ticking. And I have this time now to make my best possible life, build my best possible life. And I'm going to stop beating myself up about what happened way back when, and I'm living in the now. Because all of those things, and, all those things that I've been through, I wouldn't want to relive them again.
Yeah.
But they could either serve me in a positive way, or they can serve me in a negative way. It's all up here. Mm-hmm. If I choose to let it serve me in a negative way, I'll be depressed, and, I'd probably be an alcoholic and all of those things. And there are people that go down that road. And instead of taking something that, yes, it was painful, no, I don't want to relive it, but what have I learned from it? For me, I've learned that life is really short. Yeah. And I am in the end of life business. Every week, we're taking care of almost 600 elderly, and every week people pass away in our industry. And so it's just always a reminder to me that life is really short. And we do things with the elderly, and we ask them, what's the one more thing that they never got to do that they want to do? And I tell myself in that lesson that I don't want to be 82 and say, I always wanted to do this, but I never, can we make it happen now somehow? Or I always wanted to be 82, or I'm 82 and I always wanted to go to Paris, and now you can't go, right? Yeah. So the lesson that I've learned in the business that I'm in is that how my life experience is only and solely up to me.
Yeah.
And so as, going through the divorce itself, that's a whole nother episode. That's a story, because...
I'll see you next week.
Because it just was. I didn't tell my family I was getting divorced.
Okay.
They didn't know till I was almost divorced. That's a whole nother episode. It wasn't because I didn't want to share it, but I didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. So that was a personal decision that I made, that And I didn't want them worrying about me and calling me, every other day. How are you? Are you okay? I just didn't, I wasn't, I was coping in the best way that I knew how, which was to keep on keeping on and staying busy. And I didn't want to have to stop and say, you know what, I'm okay. Because we had kind of grown apart. And so it would have been awkward to all of a sudden be talking to everyone regularly, which my family is that way. We rally around each other when things happen. And then when things are good, you don't talk maybe as much. That's my family culture. So I didn't want them all of a sudden rallying around me. That was not what I felt like I needed at that time. But then they were hurt later on when they're like, why didn't you tell us? It didn't have anything to do with them.
Exactly. That's family for you.
Yeah, why didn't you tell? Like, they were hurt. Like, why didn't you tell us? But we're your family.
Yeah. It's such a personal process that there's no right or wrong.
And I think that's just it, is I was still processing, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't even ready to talk about it when I finally had to tell them.
Yeah.
And I say had to tell them. I had to finally tell them because there was a family function
We're
that
so-and-so,
I was
it's
going to be at by myself, and it's like you finally had to and it would have been like the third family function I was at by myself. People were getting suspicious.
Yeah, so. And that's okay. I had built this life of people pleasing, and when I started realizing that I could no longer sustain a life pleasing everybody else and not myself, I had to stop, and I lost a marriage. I lost a husband because he wasn't happy that I wasn't in that role anymore, and I wasn't happy that he wasn't happy that I was out of that role. And everybody goes through such. It's a personal process and a healing process as well. It's not the divorce that's hard. It's the years leading up to it, of those I just kept trying. Like you said, I'm just going to keep working. We do these things just to keep the status quo, and it's insane.
Yeah, and I stayed way too long because I didn't want to deal with the trauma of the split.
Yeah.
Because it really is it is traumatic.
Yeah.
Even though we were very agreeable and we knew it was the right thing,
mm-hmm.
It's still, it's dealing with it.
Yeah.
The pain of staying in it had to become greater than the pain to leave.
Yep.
And that's what happens but I look back and I'm like, man, tick-tock, that was so many years that I spent not living my best life.
Same girl, same. And,
why do we do that?
I don't know, but I know that, waking up in my own bed, in my own space, and dancing around the kitchen, doing my thing, it's so worth it, that maybe I wouldn't appreciate the pain. Maybe I wouldn't appreciate the freedom and the life that I've created for mm-hmm. myself and my son if I hadn't, spent all those years. Because I felt the same. I feel like I was in it probably 3 years too long.
Yeah.
But I did it, and now everything's changed.
What I've learned, and now I see other people or friends or family, and sometimes you can see people in the thick of it,
mm-hmm.
because you've lived it, right? So you can see when people are struggling, and a family member say to me, well, you should go talk to so-and-so because
mm-hmm.
Like they want you to go talk somebody, their sense into them or whatever. And what I always say is that the pain of staying has to become greater than the pain to leave. And then they'll be ready. Everybody has their time.
Yeah. And some people get through really hard stuff together.
Right. And some people do make it.
Yeah.
There's some challenges, and then, so everyone has to live their own journey.
Yeah.
And even though I knew it for a long time, right, you still have to make that is a decision that no one else can make for you. You have to just make the decision.
Yeah. I actually had a therapist ask me, you know, is this relationship that you're in unhealthy? Is this bad for you? And I wasn't ready to face it then. You know, it took me a couple years to actually face that question. Yeah, it is bad for me, but I couldn't. So even, again, everybody has a time and a season, and I've learned that a lot of us wear our scars on the inside.
Absolutely.
So not to judge.
Yeah, and life is so much better. You get out of that situation and you really realize how much stress you were under.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You don't really realize it till you get away from it for a certain amount of time. At least that was my experience.
Yep.
I had to get away from it for a certain amount of time, and then that whole time, you are reconciling it all. At least I did. Yeah. You're running it through, and you're processing all of these things, and I did. I had to just reconcile all of that pain and what to do with it and work through it because I didn't want to carry it along like baggage.
Yes. Yeah. And we're just throwing it all out there today. I went from my first marriage right to my second, flaming hot, just boiling over with emotions. Oh yeah, now I met this guy. Now my life's perfect. So same. After my second marriage, I had to realize that I had to sit in that pain and I had to deal with that pain, and I couldn't fill that pain with anything. Mm-hmm. I had to work through it. And I mean, that's with anything, with grief, losing a loved one, you can't fill that space. You have to heal it. You have to work through it. It's like, what is it? There's like you can't go under it, can't go over it, or you got to just,
I had to surround myself too with the right people. There were people in my life that I felt safe around during that time, and there were people in my life that I knew I couldn't spend a whole lot of time with. And it wasn't so much them as it was me. It was, how do you say, like, don't take money advice from people that are broke, right? Mm-hmm. For some reason, when you're going through difficult relationship times or divorce, I don't know if you found this, but I did. People sometimes want to give you relationship advice.
Yes.
Unsolicited relationship advice.
Yes. Yeah.
And the last thing you need to hear right now is how great somebody else's marriage has been for the last 25 years.
Yep.
And I couldn't, my tolerance for that was like zero. Like, that's the last thing you need to hear, and the last thing I needed. So there were people that they feel like they want to help, and I appreciate that, but at the same time, I can't be around you.
Yeah.
Because although I'm so happy that you have had this great experience, it doesn't help my heart right now, or, what I'm going through, to hear how great things are.
Yeah, and I had to realize, too, that my friends were grieving. That was a big one for me, that I had to realize that my friends were grieving the loss of this relationship just like I was. And I had to give them time. So as a people pleaser, whenever anybody needed anything, I would stop what I was doing and I would, what do you need from me right now? Mm-hmm. So when I was going through that, I expected those same people to be that person for me. And they weren't. And I thought I was doing something wrong as a friend. But what I realized was that they needed their own time to figure stuff out. And the vacations weren't going to come, and the dinners out and all that stuff. Everyone was feeling a certain way, and everyone is allowed to feel that certain way. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was really great because I moved into an apartment complex, a brand new one, and I made new friends that we're starting over. You know, apartment living is all about, you know, there's older people that are just sold their home because they can't take care of it. There's young people. And I made all these new friends that we just supported one another, you know, and eventually those friends that I'm talking about, the ones that I lost, they came back. And the ones that came back were meant to come back, and the ones that weren't. Sure. And now we have a new dynamic because now Steph isn't available. You know, I'm very busy, and they respect that.
Yeah, for sure. I also made a friend group, and they were very safe for me because I moved to a different community, and so they never knew me as a couple.
Yeah.
I got to make friends, kind of like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You move someplace, and I was the individual. You know, and that was very freeing for me, is that because they didn't know me as the couple, they just knew me, and they knew why I moved and why I was there. But I got to have pretty quickly a support group of people that just embraced me. Well, yeah, well, that's great. You know, you'll fit into the group, and that was great to have some friends in that way during that time.
Yeah, and that's something I never would have in a million years thought about. You know, I always thought about what if I'm making a mistake? What if I can't do this? You know, I never thought about, oh, what if I make a new friend group? You know, you don't think about those things when you're, you know, when one door opens, one door closes, another one opens. There's actually some really beautiful, positive things that come out of it.
Absolutely.
And it's not all gloom and doom. And my friends that are in relationships that did want to give me advice, well, when I do this and blah, 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 they never had to experience that feeling of that door closing. So they don't understand how great actually it can feel to live more authentically and in alignment with our true selves, you know? So, you know, teach their own.
I have such a great life now. Like, I'm such a better version of me. And people that I've worked with for many years, they comment about it. Like, it's just so great to see you so happy.
Yeah.
So you think that people don't know.
Yeah.
That's one of the lies you tell yourself.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship and you're struggling and you think people don't know, people know.
Yeah. They don't know.
They may not know what it is, but they know.
Yeah.
So as good of chameleon that you think you are, if people are working close with you, they know.
Yeah. And, you know, my second ex-husband, we are friends. We can get along, you know, and that's something I never thought we would do either. When he goes on vacation, I get the dog, you know, because we each had a dog. We, you know, split the dogs amicably. And, you know, through these few years, it's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with either of us. We just weren't in the right relationship. And now he's moved on, I moved on, and like we're with people that support us. You know, I wasn't a good wife to him because I couldn't stand him. You know? So he found somebody that, you know, loves him, and, you know,
yeah,
good for him.
Right. Right. And now she's doing his laundry.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, that's funny you brought that up because yes.
Because when you
that
don't
was
like
that
someone,
was a point of contention.
You're doing the laundry. That does
Yes.
not help.
Oh my gosh, girl. Yeah.
Do your own laundry. Ready. Oh, so what? Now you wrote a book.
Yeah, I just finished it.
Like, I'm impressed at how busy you've been.
Yeah, I've been really busy. I don't answer phones
because
sometimes.
These guys over here behind the camera, that, you know, they're like, you need to write a book. And I just told them this morning, I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have the bandwidth for it.
You should write a book. It's so cathartic and healing to write a book.
So what is your book about? Is it fiction or nonfiction?
It's nonfiction. It's part memoir of 16 to now, but it also has reflection questions and reader tips in it.
Okay.
So, you know, as I was going through the writing process, I was asking myself questions. And so these questions now are in the books. You know, for instance, what would it feel like to have somebody in your corner? What would it feel like to live more authentically? What, you know, when was the time that you went against your instincts and did what somebody else told you to do?
That's such a great question.
Yeah,
too.
so it's filled with those types of questions to really invite the reader to do some work as well. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of takes the pressure off me and my story, you know. And I think through the book, the idea of the book is that transformation is possible, right? And that hopefully the reader transforms as well.
All right.
It's
So
exciting, yeah. It's weird to think about. But
it's your whole story. You're putting it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, and what happens when you're writing is you remember things that you don't recall. And I think that's where I've gotten a little bit stuck, is I actually have the copy of it, and now I'm going back through and making sure I like it, and I'm remembering more things. So it's really just super therapeutic.
How did you navigate? Because I talked to my boys about writing a book, and I was with their dad for 15 years, and that was my first divorce. We got divorced. And that was one thing I was worried about, how to navigate that, because there's parts of that relationship that are definitely part of the story. Mm-hmm. But writing about it, I wasn't sure if that is that's still their dad. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's just my perception, really.
Yeah.
Because there's always two versions to those stories, right?
Yeah.
And so how did you navigate writing, or did you even write about it when it came to...
I wrote about it in a way that I felt was authentic to me. And while it's reflective of the situation, I tried to not point fingers.
Mudsling?
Mudsling. And I try not to mudsling. So I have two baby daddies. First one, never around. He came back when the twins were like 14 because anyway, it's a long story. But he came back. He was invited to come back by my ex-husband, the first one, because my first ex-husband didn't know his dad. So he was just he was trying to help. Now, husband number one, he adopted the twins, and he's the father of my youngest. He's not in the picture anymore. So everybody knows that, you know, he's dug his grave, I guess.
Missing out.
Yeah. There's not much that they don't already know, you know, that's in there. And I also wrote it from my perspective of, this is what I was trying to do. And the whole reason why I started writing the book was so that if something were to happen to me, my kids knew how much I love them through this book. So that's the web, or the weaving of the storyline, is that they know how much I tried and how much I love them, and how everything, even though I made mistakes, was really out of love. So they can take that how they want. My intentions are of that.
Interesting. What brings you comfort today?
Journaling.
Okay.
Randomly. I think I'm a writer. I go to the dog park every day. I have a golden retriever that makes me really happy, and I love taking him to the dog park and my dog park friends. And I love Netflix. I like to be on my couch, just the simple things. It's not about the grandiose house or the cars in the driveway or big vacations. It's just really about simple things.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 dogs. They're actually in my office.
Oh, you
I'll
do?
have to introduce you to them.
Yes.
I have doodles.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So pets are definitely a way. I find a lot of comfort with my pets, and they have been there through things with me, and they love me no matter what. So I definitely get a lot of comfort from them.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're always excited to see me, even if I'm crabby. They don't care.
They don't care.
They still think I am the greatest thing.
And they're goofballs.
Yeah.
Like I can just sing and dance, and my dog just, the goofier I am, the happier he is. So he encourages me to just not take life so seriously.
Well, if you could go back and change one thing, what would it be?
Oh, I wouldn't change anything. Okay. If I could change anything, I would not live in Wisconsin in the winter.
I totally agree.
Yeah, that's
I'd like
about
to
it.
escape
Like,
the
I
winter.
wouldn't change any life experiences because, like I said, nobody was hurt, right? Like, my kids are healthy. And yeah, you have kids young and you go through really hard things with them without all the coping skills, but we all turned out okay. So I have no regrets. However, at some point in my life, I would love to not live in Wisconsin, especially in the winter. Like, just experience a whole 6 months of sunshine somewhere. Specifically, like, California would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree. There's not a whole lot I would change either. If I go looking back now, and I've been an empty nester for quite a bit of time now because all of my boys are in their 30s. I would have enjoyed those little moments, maybe just savored those a little bit more. Because when your kids leave home, there's so many times, like, I just wish I could revisit certain moments, and have understood at that time how really precious that was. But that's why we have memories and pictures, right?
Yeah.
But I get a little, sentimental about that because now that they're grown, and anytime there's a baby shower and you got to go dig up, old pictures or events like that, and I look at those pictures and that memory, and I think, wow, it just doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it is.
Yeah.
And lesson is, when you're young, they always say life is short, and I don't think I really got what that meant, unfortunately, until I got older.
Yeah.
That it really is short.
And it's nice because we don't age, just our kids age. Do you ever look back at pictures? You're like, oh, I don't look any different. And then,
yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, wow.
But yeah, I agree. I still have one at home, but I totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we said we were going to talk about it. We did. I certainly
sure did.
enjoyed meeting you and getting to know you. We have like a ton in common.
We do.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's awesome.
So I'm going to be looking forward to coming and visiting you next week.
You are coming next week, even though when this airs.
Yeah, it'll look like it was a long ways apart, right?
Yeah, but this is great.
Do I need to wear a summer outfit?
Yeah. Can we go on the beach somewhere for this one?
Right. Well, we said we were going to talk about it. We did. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
You can find the We're Talking About It podcast on YouTube, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.